And we're back with Mike Caruso. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hi, Nancy.
Mike is a graduate of George Washington University. He is a certified public accountant in Florida and in Maryland. I've had the opportunity to work with him on several occasions as a family law attorney. He's began his career at the international firm of KPMG and Grant Thornton, and he manages the firm of Caruso and Howe in Delray Beach, Florida, which specializes in forensic accounting. So I have Mike here today to talk to us about forensic accounting as it relates to family law, what things that forensic accountants really do in family law, and how you, if you are thinking of getting divorced, you should definitely have a consultation with someone like Mr. Caruso in order to plan your financial future going forward and utilize them as an expert in your divorce. So, Mike, I understand, and I know you're a forensic CPA, but for our viewers, what exactly does a forensic CPA do?
Well, Nancy, a forensic CPA, let me explain it in two parts. First, people steal money, they hide it, and they pay me to find it. Another part of my services that I provide are for people getting divorced. One of the spouses hire me, either the husband or the wife, and my job is to determine the income, the real income of the other spouse, and possibly find any monies that or assets that are hidden by the other spouse. Basically, I dig for gold.
You dig for gold. How did you get started in the field of forensic accounting?
Wow, forensic accounting. Back in about 10 years ago, I had a client who it was a small business. They ran a body shop in South Florida. And I went to one of their Christmas parties, and I met the wife's brother, and he was a CPA, and we started talking. He didn't know who I was, and I asked him what he does. He says, I'm a CPA. And I said, where's your office? He says, well, I don't really have an office. I don't practice as a CPA. I manage real estate. I go, oh. Well, later on in the evening, I found out he's the brother of my client. And she goes, real estate? I didn't know he owned any real estate. So I went back to my office the next week. I started looking up online, public records, real estate in his name, and found a few properties. And then I started looking up properties under her deceased parents' names, and found a few more properties. And when it all said and done, over a 5-year period, we found $12 million of estate assets that he was kind of hiding and keeping from her. And she had no clue that her parents had that kind of money. But we got her more than her fair share of those $12 million of assets.
So I'm going to guess that's what you mean by digging for gold.
Digging for gold. It was fun.
Wow.
I got excited about it and started doing it.
So what is a typical case that you and your firm get involved in?
Well, I guess typically I'm hired by a partner of a business that's breaking up, or I'm hired by a husband or a wife of a marriage that's breaking up, typically.
Okay. And, you've worked on many divorce cases over the years, I know, because several of them have been with my office. What do you recommend to our viewers in terms of what they should be planning for if they consider divorce, or if they're pretty sure that a divorce is in their future?
Well, if divorce is in their future, I guess the first thing I would recommend is that they try to fix their marriage. The second thing is I would recommend they hire an experienced CPA and an experienced attorney. And then I would follow that with the advice that don't just jump at the quick settlement that may be offered in the beginning of the case. Use your experts, your attorney, your forensic CPA, gather the facts, and then base your decision based on the facts. And then again, don't hold out to the end when a good offer is presented. Don't shy away from that.
I, in my practice, see a lot of people who struggle so much with figuring out what their expenses are, how much money they actually need to live, see people with a lot of debt and who've poorly managed the money that they do have. What advice do you have or guidance can you provide to the viewers who find that whole financial process really frightening?
Well, I think you get together with a CPA, and the first thing to do is to write down your assets and your liabilities and get a picture of what you really have and what you really owe and what you're spending. And then establish a budget and work with the CPA to stick with that budget.
And I know for a lot of people who are going through divorce and they're married to people who are self-employed, and you always find, they never really know what their self-employed spouse makes. How can you help them in terms of nailing down that income from someone who, runs all their expenses through the business, and, how do you even pull that apart?
Well, what we do is, working with the attorneys and the power of the subpoena, we gather all the originating documentation, such as bank statements, canceled checks, and other documentation, receipts for expenses, and we recreate the financial statements based on what I like to say the facts, and not just the tax avoidance methods that some of the spouses typically use that are self-employed. One time I had my favorite case, Nancy, was I was working on a case, and I'm looking through about 4,000 to 5,000 canceled checks, and looking at the backs and the fronts, and I found one canceled check that on the back of it was endorsed, and the endorsement was crossed out, and you could hardly read it, and I looked at it, and we ended up, based on that one check out of 4,000, we found $1 million of money that had been stashed away and stolen, and it was my client's money totally, and it was being stolen by a family relative, and we got all that money back and then some.
Wow, one check, one endorsement leads to $1 million.
$1 million. That's forensics.
That's incredible. So we're running out of time, and just towards the end, can you give our viewers one really good story of something that you found? Because I think viewers really like to hear those stories.
Wow. Okay. I thought of one. One of my clients, it was a divorce case, and then I represented the wife, and the husband had a dental practice, and we were going through his tax returns, and he had a significant advertising expense, and I'm looking at the general ledger, and I'm seeing all these checks going to this certain company, and they said it was for advertising. So I looked on Google, and then I looked up the name of that advertising company, and I realized it was a check cashing store in Plantation. So I went and visited the Plantation store. I showed him a picture of the husband. He says, "Oh yeah, comes here every week." Turns out he was running about $4,000 of income through the check cashing store and not depositing in his bank account. It's almost $200,000 a year of undisclosed income that we found.
Oh, wow.
So.
And just because something didn't seem right in that tax return about an advertising expense.
Right. And he was getting tax deductions for it.
Incredible. Incredible. Well, I want to really thank you for coming on the show. I know our viewers found this to be really fascinating, and your stories, you'll have to come back and tell us some more of these great stories of digging for gold, I think you called it.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.